The United States will work with our partners and the stakeholders in Syria to help them seize an opportunity.
Part of the ridiculousness of this story, guys, is you've even got different apparent nativist groups, like rebel groups, one funded by the CIA, one funded by the FBI, all fighting one another. It's a bit Judean People's Front. Watch The Life of Brian to get that reference.
Are you the Judean People's Front? Fuck off. What? Well, the People's Front of Judea.
Where various radical groups, all claiming to be fighting for the independence of a nation, are actually sponsored by colonial and imperialist interests that are seated and centralised elsewhere. And remember, just so you know, just in case you don't know this about me, when we talk about American interests and American agencies, as the world now knows, it's not an attack on the American people or the American Constitution or America herself. It's an attack on the organisations and groups, deep state, corporate or globalist, that use the energy of the American people, the power of the American people to pursue imperialist interests. It's happened in the past in Iraq, it's happened in the past in Korea, it's happened in the past in Vietnam. Is it happening right now between Ukraine and Russia? Are there corporatist, globalist interests taking place there now? Let me know in the comments and chat. And are events in Syria not just independent, dislocated events, or are they somehow connected to globalist, corporatist interests that tend to be centered and focused on the relationships between America's deep state and the military-industrial complex and their machinations and misadventures around the world? Let's get into it and try to understand it together. So here's a headline. In Syria, militias armed by the Pentagon fight those armed by the CIA. How amazing. And guess what? The good news is you're funding both sides of that argument, because the Pentagon are using your tax dollars and the CIA are using your tax dollars. Now, some of you will have long enough memories to know that Julian Assange, way back in 2017, revealed that there was sponsorship and involvement between the US government and various Middle Eastern terrorist organizations. We'll be covering that. So have a quick look at what Glenn Greenwald's added to this story. The US media, 2001 to 2017. We must radically restructure our foreign policy and civil liberties to vanquish the existential threat of Al-Qaeda. The US media this week. Meet the glamorous, reformed, media-trained, wise, diverse, borderline woke Al-Qaeda leader prepared to govern Syria. Amazing. There's such a total lack of morality that you can be told that Al-Qaeda are the worst thing in the world when the Twin Towers go down, and now the best thing in the world when Syria has been taken over and Assad overthrown. Now, how many of you watch this mad, complicated viper's nest and just think, I just don't want to be involved in this stuff. I certainly don't want to be funding it. What's going on? I don't want American troops there. I don't want American tax dollars spent there. More and more nativist populist figures like Trump appear to be ahead of the game, recognizing that what we actually need is non-interventionism unless American interests, inverted commas, are truly at threat. When American interests become imperial colonial interests that are nothing to do with the American people, that's when you find yourself in unnecessary wars. Let's dive into this in some depth, looking first of all about that Joe Biden is, of course, suggesting, as well as the Pentagon funding one side, the CIA funding another, Joe Biden wants you to send aid and support to clear up this mess that's created by their crazy deep interests.
It's also a moment of risk and uncertainty. As we all turn to the question of what comes next, the United States will work with our partners and the stakeholders in Syria to help them seize an opportunity.
Stakeholders is such an extraordinary piece of language to use when talking about imperialism and colonialism. It's a neologism, that's emerged when talking about, we're stakeholders in the UK. In a way, that's there to blur the fact that there are private and corporatist interests involved in government at a deep level. That's why stakeholders emerged as a term. You're a stakeholder in your factory. You're a stakeholder in your country. You're not a serf. You're not like just some molecular entity at the bottom of technological feudalism. Your consciousness hoovered up, vacuumed up, dispatched as required. You're a stakeholder. There's an interesting word to hear. Imagine what it's like to be in Syria right now. There's going to be like jails and prisons being emptied, shells landing. There might be public hangings at some point, for all I know. We'll get into it in some depth in a minute. But when you use the anodyne language of the boardroom, stakeholders, and any of you that have been watching Joe Biden teeter about, mumbling, fumbling and forgetting for the last 4 years will realise that he, of course, cannot be engineering or meaningfully participating in this situation. He's simply reading something that's been held out before him, and I'm not that confident they'll even be able to do that successfully.
To manage the risks, for years, the main backers of Assad have been Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. But over the last week, their support collapsed, all three of them, because all three of them are far weaker today than they were when I took office. And let's remember why.
That's why I have done so well and should have a lollipop. But even if I hadn't, I'd probably, pardon me, anyway. Oh, pardon me. Like Kamala Harris making a way for his... Pardon me.
With the ability and to find the...
After Hamas attacked Israel on October the 7th, 2023, when much of the world responded with horror, Iran and its proxies chose to launch a multi-front war against Israel. That was a historic mistake on Iran's part. Today, Iran's main territorial proxy, Hezbollah, is also on its back. Only 12 days ago, I spoke from the Rose Garden about the ceasefire deal in Lebanon.
We are all they live literate now, aren't we? We all, when we see this, can witness in real time the hidden messages that Joe Biden might as well have strapped and subtitled across the podium adorning the crest of American power. This is what I want you to believe. Obey. Obey. Hezbollah this, Hamas that. When we already know that the CIA have been involved in regime change in all of these pre-identified countries for decades and decades, that there are imperialist interests playing out throughout this drama. And yet he has the audacity to stand there and claim, God love him, things have gotten a lot better since I've been in power. I've weakened them. These organizations and nations, they're as weak as Hunter's heart on, man. They're going to need some real boosting.
Grand Canyon University is an unusual place to get educated, a place that adheres to the values of Scripture rather than the crazy values of our time. Just go on to our show on any day of the week, you'll see it's madness. I'm bringing you an invitation to get educated at Grand Canyon University, as well as, lovingly and incredibly, a message of peace and goodwill from Grand Canyon University this season. They remind us that the angel said to Luke in 2:10, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people." Jesus came into the world to save humanity and change the world forever. Christmas is a time for serving others, not serving ourselves, giving of our spirit, and loving as Christ loves us. Those values seem abstract and alien today. If you're considering further or higher education, consider Grand Canyon University and get an education in Christ, even if the subjects go beyond Christ, although nothing goes beyond Christ, actually. Merry Christmas from Grand Canyon University.
A deal that was only possible because Hezbollah has been badly degraded. Meanwhile, Hamas has been badly degraded as well. Iran's own military capabilities have been weakened. Iran tried 2 times to attack Israel, and the United States and built a coalition of countries to directly defend Israel and help defeat those attacks. All this made possible for Iran and Hezbollah to continue to prop up, impossible, I should say, for them to prop up the Assad regime.
Well, this is all very inspiring. Is there some way that I can give you some of my taxes? Is there a tax I can pay for this, please, Joe? Please tell me. There's some way I can contribute. The billions in new aid money, says friend of the show Mike Benz, to Syria will simply be to capacity build all the new, inverted commas, democratic institutions that will functionally control the policy direction and governance of the new regime to make sure it never strays from the US State Department that backed its rise to power. What a fascinating revelation from the great Mike Benz, that whether you're looking at Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria, what you will ultimately be looking at, if you look hard enough and long enough are the tendrils of deep state interest and global corporatism. In a way, new media has cracked open and slit the fascia of their deception and peeled it away, so we can now see the musculature of the body of global corruption. We now know that this story may vary. Oh, this one's Iron Man, this one's Spider-Man, this one's Hulk, but ultimately you're going to get some sort of loner ultimately encountering a new special power before manifesting the deep potency that lurked within them. What I'm saying is, this is a format and a formula. The specifics might alter between Ukraine, Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea, but if you look long enough and hard enough, what you will see are the powers that call themselves America but never were and can never be representative of the interests of American people, because what we've seen now through a powerful mandate at the last election is that American people don't want to be involved anymore in Middle Eastern meddling and disaster. American people don't want to spend billions of dollars in aid. It seems like what American people want, based on the recent referendum, is control of America's borders, non-interventionism, focus on American healthcare, and in particular American children. I pray that that can be delivered through the new government, in particular obviously the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and the various fascinating individuals that are currently gathered around him. And this is surely an unprecedented cadre that's gathered now. Bobby Kennedy, when was the last time you saw someone that spoke like that, looked like that, had those kind of perspectives at the top of a new department, the biggest department actually, the biggest ever governmental budget? When was the last time you saw individuals that speak and act like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk heading up a new department that's destined and programmed to bring about new efficiency in government? Nothing like this has happened before. It's absolutely extraordinary and fascinating. Now, there are a lot of people that have been in this space for a long time, to name but one, David Icke, will say this is just a repurposing and repackaging of the same set of global powers that bring about the global wars that you're talking about even now. Let me know in the comments and chat what you think about that. Who is truly powerful? Are we about to embark on a new golden age, or will the same systems and sets of powers ultimately resume control?
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.